Hello, this is Dissonant Waves. We're back somehow for 2021.
Yeah, we survived
Yeah.
2020.
I literally survived COVID, so that's interesting. Everyone else, I'm sure, is doing. Yeah, Ritalин's not had it. Tricks, have you had it?
No, I have not.
It's not fun. You shouldn't get it. Stay safe,
I
please.
Like people, so this is easy for me. I just stay indoors.
Wash your hands, wear a mask. Please practice social distancing. It's not fun to have it.
Been
But-
self-isolating since the age of 12.
Now that
As
we've
if I've been to the birthday party.
completely dated this episode, let's date it even more. We are currently recording on February 7th. We've taken some time off.
2021.
2021.
Yeah, it's been a huge gap actually. For me in particular, I've only done the one episode in the past 3 months, so I've kind of forgotten how to talk.
Yeah, your last full episode was in
Well, I did one in December, but like the first proper actual like listen to albums and reviews was
Yeah.
at the end of October, because well, not even at the end of October, it was at the start of October.
Something like
Because
that.
Then I was like,
That's right.
because that's when I started packing and stuff like that, and I'm like, hey, can't really use the computer, can't really do that. I'm focusing on this, and then boom, November moved in, and then December and then January happened. So it's been nearly 4 months actually.
Yeah, and I moved house in January.
And I've been here, as always. But we have come back. We have some albums to talk about. We're going to try to do this a little bit differently, but the gimmick today is that we've tried to do albums that were over 100 minutes long to kind of make up for the whole break thing. Except nobody could really find anything except for me. So,
Mine's very technically.
sure. In Ritalин's case, he's picked the Psychedelic Porn Crumpets High Visceral Saga, which means High Visceral is part 1, part 2, and the B-sides. So that's a whole project. That's a thing. That's a subset of work. I picked Sarah Vaughan's live album Sassy Swings the Tivoli, which is almost 2 hours of live performances over 3 or 4 days, and I think Copenhagen. I'll have to look that up again. Yeah, Copenhagen, the Tivoli Gardens. And Trix, you've picked the entire discography of Mike Krol, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's pretty much 4 albums. There's some stuff that we didn't get to, like some singles and all that, but 4 albums.
Yeah, a single and the live, audio tree live.
Right. So we got Mike Krol is Never Dead, which is the combination of I Hate Jazz and Trust Fund, his first 2 albums, plus a bunch of demos and stuff, B-sides. And then we got Turkey and Power Chords. So that's 4 albums.
It occurs to me I might have forgotten to listen to the audio tree live because everything everything
I didn't
else over
include
there.
that one. I didn't
Okay,
include that.
that's good. I didn't forget them.
So we've listened from this whole break. We've listened to 8 albums to please everybody. And here we go.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this was way too fucking much. Let's not do this again.
Yeah, the only thing that was harder to go through than this was the caretaker.
Yes.
So much shit has wandered into my head. Oh my god.
You got a frothy
There
sauce
was
in that blender.
There's a lot to go through. We have a lot to talk about, and instead of going independently into each album, we're kind of just gonna talk about it all at once because there's quite a lot of differences into what we've listened to. Like we have the Sarah Vaughan, which is one full album, and then we have this discography, which is of these albums that don't even reach 20 minutes.
Mostly, yeah.
And then we have this whole saga, which is kind of like having a full album but breaking into parts. So
Yeah.
they're all kind of different in how we've done that here, and it's also a good way to compare it because the Sarah Vaughan was a lot harder to get through on the first listen because it felt like you had to go through the whole thing at once, and then the Mike Krol was like, well, I've had enough after 15 minutes, but that was an album done. So going to the next. I don't want to be rude to Mike Krol because actually, the further I got into his discography, the more I actually started to enjoy his songs. I think he got better as
Yes.
time went on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Turkey, I I hadn't listened to Turkey yet, and Dominic, you typed in the chat. It was like, "Hey, I think Turkey is the best Mike Krol," and I listened
Yes.
to it, and you're fucking right. That's his best album to date.
Right, because Turkey to me feels like he evolved from sad girl broke up with me, I remember you from second grade kind of shit, which, you know, has its place, but I feel like Power Chords kind of returned to a lot of that.
Yeah.
Well, I fucking loved Neighborhood Watch and Lesson Together. I thought those were some really just great garage rock songs. I actually did like some of his songs in his early discography as well.
I mean,
his voice was just really making it hard to go through it. I just really couldn't get into it. And there were songs like 15 Minutes and Red Minivan, which I actually really like the instrumentation. I like how short and simple the songs are, but I just can't get into his vocal performances. They're just not for me.
I have to agree.
Really turned me off.
I agree.
Really turned me off at the start. But I felt on Turkey, the way that he was doing everything just kind of fit a lot more better. And that's these were short bursts, so they were easy to get through. And even if I didn't really like these parts, it's like, well, they're short songs. We can go into the next one and judge that later. So I did appreciate that about it, but it's not really a thing I should be appreciating about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this is the second snotty Midwestern punk band.
This is the second one?
Snotty Midwestern punk band.
Talking about the Liquids?
Yeah.
Fair. I do think Liquids had some interesting things about them that I kind of preferred in a way, because it was kind of like intentionally like hard to understand, and like did they record this on like a Fisher-Price thing in a bathroom kind of aesthetic?
Yeah, and I kind of dig that vibe sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think I like the vibe that Mike Krol goes for, with especially in his first two albums. I quite enjoy them. I can understand his voice being a bit hard to get into, but that's for most of his well-known stuff.
Here, like what Mike Krol ended up reminding me of was like a light Scott Pilgrim, but also filtered through like a petitely kind of lo-fi-ness.
Yeah, I could see that. And like it's funny you mentioned like Scott Pilgrim, because it's not Scott Pilgrim, but his songs have been featured in like Steven Universe.
Right, and they are very fitting for that aesthetic that I imagine that show has, because I've not seen it. I only know the people that I know who like it.
Like bright teenage, like sad, fake sad kind of.
Yeah, fake sad is a good word.
Yeah, actually, I'll compare it to like the actual Scott Pilgrim's character's band Sex Bomb songs that were actually made for the movie.
Right.
Which that were done by Beck, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you say grabbed Threshold, that song, it's pretty similar in its instrumentation and its vibe. Like you take the vocals out of this and you put those two together, and they could probably actually fit on the same album just from memory alone. Here, they are very similar, but I mean, then also taking like let's say I'm just trying to think of a good Mike Krol song to compare this to.
A Million Times.
Yeah, we'll compare A Million Times and Garbage Truck, because Garbage Truck from Scott Pilgrim, from what I remember, was a lot more slower paced, and A Million Times was actually incredibly slow paced compared to that album. It goes for double the length for any other song on there.
Yeah.
And a million times is kind of just keeping punk music as its own.
The demo was interesting, not having that repetition in there. I thought that was a fun little thing that they threw on there.
Yeah, there's one of the demo tracks really caught me off guard, because at the end of what is it? Hold on. I think it's Grade School Love. For just like the last 10 seconds, he breaks into something entirely different.
Yeah.
And it just like I want to hear that song.
Right.
Yeah. I just want to like quickly go back into my comparison, just because what I was going to say is when you listen to just the instruments of A Garbage Truck and A Million Times, you would think that they're both on the same album. You take out the vocals, because the vocals are where the vast difference of this comes in.
Yes.
In that song Garbage Truck on the Sex Bomb / actually Beck, the vocal performance is actually very much along the same lines of the instrumentation. However, with Mike Krol, and this is the big difference is that his vocal, the vibe just of his vocals, actually completely different just by the way that he sings it. I know the way that he actually is trying to sing it is in the same kind of like sadder, slower vibe, but because he's a lot more high pitched,
Mm-hmm.
it really creates this kind of contrast. I think it's interesting. I didn't particularly take to it, but I actually think that was a kind of an interesting thing that he did in pretty much all of these albums, which kind of makes them stand out. Like, I could potentially actually remember this compared to a lot of the other garage punk or
Mm-hmm.
other stuff. Like, I can't really remember much of Ritz, or I can't even remember that much of Beach Goons.
Oh, Beach Goons was fun. I liked Beach Goons.
Like, I'm sure if I listen to it again, I'll be like, yeah, that was fun.
I will say, though,
They had nothing that really stood out about them.
I think it's unfair in a sense that we have Mike Krol on this episode, because you literally have his vocals, which I agree I do not particularly enjoy. But then you have Sarah Vaughan's vocals, which are just like operatic, like one of the finest singers who ever recorded, like leaving me tears having listened to it how many times.
And let's embrace the irony of having an album. We're putting an artist with an album called "I Hate Jazz" against a jazz artist.
Yeah, we haven't done a jazz album before, so I wanted to kind of do that, and vocal jazz no less.
I've never really been into jazz coming out of this. I'm still not really into jazz. I do agree. She is an absolutely fantastic singer. Her vocals around this were very calming. I didn't really get that whole tear up happening to me out of this. I didn't really get that emotion from it, but
I got it on one song.
If you get that, yeah. Maybe if I listen to it more, I'll be like, yep, I feel her a bit more. I mean, this was harder to get through because it more felt like I had to listen to it.
That's fair.
At once, and it was pretty much 2 1-hour performances. The thing I very much did love about each performance, though, was it actually 2 different performances, or was it a lot of
I think it was like 3 or 4 days, and I think it just kind of spliced in whatever worked or whatever was like.
I read it was 4 days.
Because
that's actually really incredible then, because this flows really well. Like, it's just one performance.
the funny thing is they introduced her like 3 different times, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it's just
I just assumed that's something they just did.
I mean, that could be. That could be. But what song made you cry, Trix? I want to know.
It didn't like make me cry, but it made me kind of like teary-eyed.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, shit, that is like raw and emotional, and it was Black Coffee.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I think it was Time After Time for me, when she hits that final part of the chorus in the go around. Cause she is a master at like ending songs.
Yeah.
Like giving the big emotional impact gut punch ending to her songs, and God, some of them are so good. Like I really like, am just. I don't think Sarah Vaughan gets talked about enough, because she's, like, you have Ella Fitzgerald and you have like of the era like Frank Sinatra and people like that, but I don't think Sarah Vaughan gets enough credit personally.
And then we now go into like a psychedelic porn crumpets when we start to kind of talk about flow, and I think psychedelic porn crumpets, my best way of describing them, even though it's probably an insult to describe it like this, is budget King Gizzard.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much spot on with that.
They got some King Gizzard out of here and there.
Well, it's like if you told me, if I didn't really know each one's discography that well, and you just played this wine for me and told me it was a King Gizzard album, it flows the exact way a King Gizzard album does, it sounds the exact way a King Gizzard album does, but it does have slight differences just in the vocals are very slightly different, but like if you listen to them both with your eyes closed, you wouldn't think they were both the same, but you would kind of see there's like, hey, yeah, there's some similarities both in the way that they sing and they sound.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that
I
is
would
just Australia then?
Yeah, I would say the main difference I find in a lot of the the psychedelic albums that these two artists put out is that Psychedelic Porn Crumpets are a lot more riff heavy than King Gizzard is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my god, there are some incredible riffs on just to start this whole project. I mean, Cornflake's riff is just so good.
That wah fuzz with the fucking.
I know, I guess this is the part where I'm still not as into the psychedelic stuff as you two are. Because, like, the first half did not do it for me at all. Like, it was fine, but I feel like that's, like, the standard of the genre. Like, it sounds good, and it's interesting, sure, but it did not do very much to me. Like, it just sounded like this is the genre, and then once you get halfway through to, like, added abstraction of being is when they finally, like, go out and, like, try different things.
See, I disagree. I think the early parts of this album all kind of sound distinct from each other while still being in the same theme and flowing with each other. I mean, I said this kind of has the flow of the King Gizzard, but there are some moments in which you can say, hey, yeah, the flow is a little, like, you can tell that there's these breaks in the songs, and it kind of just like, because Cornflake kind of it kind of ends and then it picks up into Cuban's Lenges. It'll probably even get to a point in which I would say, like, the flows of both of these albums and projects are great, but I might even think that the Sarah Vaughan had a much more consistent flow between the songs in this album than Psychedelic Porn Crumpets did. Don't get me wrong, I still prefer High Visceral. I adore this project. I think, especially seeing as these were the first albums they put out.
Yeah.
This is incredible to put out as debuts.
Yes.
And pretty ambitious as well. You stuck to a theme for pretty much 2 years here to put out. And then they did it, and there was some fantastic fucking tracks on this.
It was interesting listening to both the Mike Krol stuff and this stuff too, because I feel like they both kind of had the similar, like, let's go lo-fi, let's try to do our thing. You know, it kind of sounds like other stuff, because I mean, the Mike Krol stuff and this stuff are both the debuts. It's both the beginning. In Mike Krol's case, it's the whole thing. But especially, like, the vocals kind of remind me of each other, where at least in, like, High Visceral Part 1 especially, I feel like the vocals tend to be much more airy or, like, lo-fi, fuzzier. And so, but then it's like the music itself is much more clean, and, like, you can hear more of it, and, like, it's better recorded, I guess you could say, though it doesn't always matter. And it just kind of reminds me, like, it's like the opposite of, like, what Krol is going for almost. It has a completely different feel just from that.
Yeah, I can understand that.
One thing I truly also just adore, it's not judging any of the music here. I really love the album art. Like, they're very simple, and it's the exact type of album art you'd expect from a band called Psychedelic Porn Crumpets.
Yeah, they're like acrylic pours, almost like what were the Load and Reload album covers? Metallica. They were
Yeah.
Cow Blood and Semen.
Oh, I don't know. I have to look that up now.
I personally want to know. And
Load was oh yeah, Blood.
Semen and Blood 3 was Load.
And Reload looks like a fire, but it's probably, I don't know, a Xeroxed asshole.
So one thing to mention as well is that we're actually recording this album. Not this album. Fuck, this is now an album. We're now recording this podcast episode at a great time. The reason why I said album is because I had all the topics I was going to say in my head and just fucked it up.
Sure.
But the newest Psychedelic Porn Crumpets album, I think, got announced around December. And so, like, I'd already planned to do this, and then they're like, hey, the new album comes out. Literally 2 days ago, it's come out now. And
Yeah.
I plan to cover it later, so I won't talk about it too much.
Yeah,
And it kind of continue like they kind of continue going with the sound. They always kind of have stuck with the sound,
Mhm.
which in one point is a disappointment, but in the other, there's always so much that you can do with it that I think they're actually still branching out and creating some great music.
Mhm. Because that's the thing too is I think High Visceral Part 2 is like much improved over Part 1. Like right away, like from Neck, you can just tell like, oh, this is a song that grabs you right away. There's much more going on here. There's like it's like a scene setter. It's atmospheric. It was like you get to the villain's castle and what happens as you walk up to it, kind of thing.
See, Neck is probably one of my least favorites on the whole project, just because I think the intro to it goes for a little too long. But once it finally hits, it's actually, yeah, the album starts and it's really fucking good.
And then it gets all.
Album being-
I was just saying it gets all jazzy, kind of like when you get to Gurzel and stuff, and that kind of is a nice little tie back to Sarah Vaughan being jazz, but like the actual like jazz of its era. And this is kind of like where a lot of bands kind of throw back to that stuff to do something different and get funky.
On a aside, Reload's artwork was titled "Piss and Blood 26."
All right.
It's, good on him. Just whatever makes him happy, I guess.
Yeah.
And well, the thing is about what makes the Sarah Vaughan album worth covering was that this is pretty much a good way to cover her whole career, because this wasn't too late in her career, but it was
The 60s.
period. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what her period was, but it's in a good enough time in which the songs that she's doing kind of spans a lot of her career. And there's also some of her big songs are done here, if I'm correct. Like
yes.
I believe she does Misty, which I think is currently the top stream song on Spotify for her.
Time After Time is one of her big ones. Tenderly is another big one. And Misty, yes. And she does a little covers.
I don't know her at all because this type of music was just not popular in Australia.
That's yeah.
I think I've talked a lot about it, like about black jazz musicians and reggae musicians not really being so popular in Australia because this was also during the time of White Australia policy.
Mm-hmm.
So we were quite a racist country then. We weren't really getting these types of artists, and we still did get some of them, but I don't think Sarah Vaughan was ever quite popular here. Although I will check the Wikipedia to make sure I'm not eating my words.
The interesting thing too about this album that I think is worth highlighting, especially, is that this is probably the height of like right before jazz kind of is on its way out, and like adult contemporary kind of went by the wayside and kind of became like a niche thing that specific audiences listened to when they got older. Like this is as like rock and all that kind of sprouted up and became its thing and like really took over that scene as far as like pop music and all that goes. And so you have Sarah Vaughan at like probably one of her best moments, kind of defining kind of that transition, because like in the beginning of her career she was working with like Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, doing, you know, being in that scene with the best jazz musicians possible. And this is the point now where she's made a name for herself as much as she can, and now it's kind of like either you know her or you don't.
So I'm actually, speaking of don't know her, I'm actually looking at the chart positions on Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
For 1946 to 1956, none of her singles charted outside of the US.
Sure.
And then in 1957 to 1987, so this 30-year period now, it looks like only 1, 2, 3 of her singles charted outside of the North American region. So she got 2 that were in Canada,
mm-hmm.
so they don't count. There's a North American, but there's a Broken Heart Melody and Smooth Operator. But she actually ended up having 3 songs chart in the UK charts: Passing Strangers, Broken Hearted Melody, and Serenata. And she also had Broken Heart Melody chart in the Dutch charts, which I think is actually kind of interesting.
Right. Yeah. Other thing I want to mention. Other thing I want to mention too quickly is that the weird disconnect of like when I chose this album, I have known, of course, the version that we all listen to, which is like 36 tracks long or whatever. But like when you look at the Wikipedia, at least for the album, it's like this is a single release. Like this is a single vinyl release. There is no way they fit 36 songs on this vinyl. And yet it's like you go digging on like Discogs and you find out, okay, the original vinyl release was just, you know, a handful of songs from this performance, and then at some point they decided, I think in the 80s or 90s, the CD version is going to be like so much bigger than what initially people listened to. And I'm very thankful that they decided to do that. I'm very curious what spurred that option, like what made them. Because I mean, like I wonder if this stuff would even survive if they had not decided to do that.
I mean, it's also kind of songs that are on the first half of this album that get done again. Like I'm pretty sure what is this thing called? Love is done twice.
Loverman's done twice.
Loverman's done twice. I Cried for You's done twice.
And that's it. I mean, there's only 3, but it does definitely make this album drag on a little bit longer. Because I tallied up the time it takes for all 3 of these choices to, like, you know, for a complete cycle.
That's why I thought this was just two live sets that was just because it's pretty common for artists to be at a venue and do 2 different nights and have 2 different live sets or set lists, and that's what I thought this was. That's why I was surprised that this was actually a bunch of different other like 3 or 4. I thought, okay, well that's interesting how it flows so well, but it's also like, well, then why have we added in like what the re-editions of these songs, like adding them in twice, isn't that interesting. If it's for flow's sake, which could be it, that could be it, because they didn't flow that badly into each other. That's fine, but they're not different from the first time that they played.
They're a bit shorter. That's it.
Yeah. Like, I'm actually going to go compare this to, and this is probably a crime already for Dominic for me to be saying this, but I am going to compare this to Tism.
Sure.
And Tism recently put out a live album, which is fascinating for them to even be putting out anything. It's called, on behalf of Tism, I would like to announce that I'd like to concede, that we have lost the election, which is a very good timing for the album to be put out, because it's not a Trump reference, because that's actually what their last live show was called, but it came out at December when Trump was refusing to concede the election.
Yeah. Perfect timing, yeah.
And in this album, they actually perform. You actually see the song "Defecate on My Face" is there 4 times, but the first 3 times that they're all like intros and hypes for it, and then the 4th time comes out, and these are all in the same live set as well, so it makes sense for these to be there. And then the 4th time they actually play it in full, which is at around the end of the set, and then it's actually literally the end of the main set. They play it, and then they have like the interlude where they say where they get a call, and then it's like you've lost the election, so then they concede the election and play their last ever song, which is actually a song that I think we've covered because it's "Give Up for Australia,"
yeah,
which I believe, is on Machiavelli, and that's something that's like each time that you listen to it, it's different. Like they've done it like a different way, a different part of it, and then they actually play the full thing. Whilst with Sarah Vaughan, it's just the same song again.
Sure, and
second shorter maybe.
I mean, if you compare them, there definitely are some differences. Obviously, different vocal tracks, and I think one of the songs is like a minute shorter, so that's always nice. But I mean, normally it would be more of a crime, I feel like. But then you kind of have to weigh like, okay, there are 3 repeats, but then you go to like Mike Krol, where we listened to the extravaganza edition of Mike Krol is Dead. So yeah, there's demos for everything, but there are also demos for everything.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I will compare it to the Mike Krol one, because some of the demos sound just so the same. There's not really much point into them. Like, yeah, they would have actually they would somehow have a weaker. I would have thought a lot of the distortion would have made it actually better, but no, it's actually made it worse. Listening to some of these demos, so they were my least favorite part of the Mike Krol to listen to, just because it's like, well, not only were I not big on these songs, but now they're somehow worse. Like 15 minutes gets a demo and an instrumental reprise.
Yeah, which does not need.
Yeah. And then, like a Star, just doesn't need a demo. It's almost the exact same. The only song I would have loved to have actually seen a demo from, which I don't think they have one for, is Red Minivan, which I think out of all the songs in the first 2 albums, I think that's the best.
What was the one I thought best? Hold up. 17, I think was my favorite.
I
Keith
like
Moon?
Red Minivan because it has the raw sound that I'd like from Mike Krol, and his vocals really work with it. And it's my actual complaint, and it's the only time in the whole first 2 Mike Krol albums I have this complaint. It's too short. I want this song to continue. It's great. Like I love that kind of synth that goes over at the start.
Yeah.
It's short and sweet, but I'm like, when I first heard that, I was like, oh fuck yeah, it's great. And then the song kind of just stops and then continues again, and he's done all the stuff in it, and it's actually just all works, and I love it. And then it just ends again, and I just wanted it to go on. The chorus is great. I know you got to break my heart again. I know you got to tear it up again. It's just fun to sing along to, especially when this is garage rock, and what garage rock can do quite well is make these catchy tunes out of what can be quite grating music.
Grade School Love was a great example of that. I think I cannot get Grade School Love out of my head. And
I love you, my Grade School Love!
I mean, I remember when I saw you at the show and tell, you look sick, you weren't doing so well. That's just a stupid line. I love it. But,
And I think the most memorable line is actually the start of 15 minutes. The start of the first 2 is like, what if I told you that only had 15 minutes? Yeah, and
you had 15 minutes to spend with me or your friends. Would you take the first plane over the west coast, or would you take the first bus over to my house?
That's very
I think you got West Coast and My House in the wrong lines.
No, I didn't. It's playing to the west coast. I might have mixed them up, but it's playing to the west coast.
Yeah.
To my house.
And that's the kind of shit that really reminds me of Steven Universe. That kind of that just seems like that kind of feel, where it's almost like a bullshit false equivalency of like, would you rather spend time with me or your friends if we're all gonna die?
Yeah. The lyrics do have like a bit of a very metaphorical, and it's like, I'm not sure if I like this metaphorical question or not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was right. It is My House line first. You did get the bus to My House part right, but yeah, because I remembered it's like, it's asking you questions like, are you going to spend it with me first, or are you going to spend it with your friends, in a kind of way. Because I mean, there's a big difference having it in those 2, like in the order that you have it.
Yeah.
Because if you have it with like me or your friends, has this very more like, he realistically sees it's like, it's not actually going to be with me, it's going to be with them, isn't it? Plus, if it's in the other way, it would be the different order. It would be a different kind of hope.
And there's something about it that's menacing in a way. And that's the thing I kept coming back to is I feel like some of this Mike Krol stuff is like, remember when I compared Gautier to being like incelish?
Oh, Tricks, are you ready?
Like Mike, like I'm not saying Mike Krol is an incel or anything like that. I don't want to accuse him of that at all. I just got like this.
You find we've got you. You find we've got you.
That was a very specific song and a very specific point when I said that. That was over a year ago. But like, I would not go out with Mike Krol. Like, I would not be in. Like, I just would not be into this at all. Like, it just seems like he's gonna write a song about every girl he's ever broken up with or broke up with him.
It's the old Taylor Swift joke.
Yeah, but I feel like Taylor Swift handles it better, and he seems more unstable in a way that does not seem fun. And that's mental health, and that's that's what that is.
I'm not trying to say Mike Krol handled it well. I don't think Taylor Swift had songs that were really handling it that well.
Maybe not, but like you have like Mike Krol who just seems to dwell on like self-pity and like making these really snarky comments about like, oh, you'd probably choose your friends over me, if not literally saying it, then saying it through the questions he's asking in his music. And then you have Sarah Vaughan just covering jazz standards, being so like romantic and sassy and like so much with her voice.
I will say just about the whole line about the would you spend it with me or your friends kind of thing. There can be points in relationships. Some people go through this kind of stuff. I don't know if either of you have, but you can actually start to feel like your partner really only just has you because they're somebody that's easy to be with and they more care about their friends than you do. It's about feeling like second or third to them and not actually feeling important in a relationship. If that's what Mike Krol is going, if Mike Krol is going for that, it's actually not so dangerous of a line, more as it is trying to finally ask that question. It's like, hey, am I actually important here, or am I just kind of here? So that's why I don't mind the line so much, but I do think it can be interpreted as the other way, which is a lot more abusive.
Right.
Which I have both interpretations here, and I think that makes me 50-50 on it.
And then it's like, I go to like grade school love again, and there's again something about that too that is kind of like you're really focusing on your grade school love that was so young you still had show and tell. Like that seems like, okay, that's like a real pity party. That's like, that's like, holy shit, dude, please get some help.
The put your picture in my locker also comes to mind.
Like that could be high school. I'm okay with like that's. I don't want to nitpick everyone.
I can explain that one.
Mm-hmm.
He says he's influenced by Weezer.
Sure.
Yeah, he says that all of these albums were influenced by Weezer, so that might explain the insult streak that is running through these albums.
Although I do plan to cover Pinkerton one day. So I like that album.
And again, I'd like Turkey because I feel like Turkey got beyond that like pity party, and like you have stuff like Neighborhood Watch where again he's oddly violent in Neighborhood Watch. Like
I also really, out of all his album arts, Turkey is the best. Just love him dressed up as a cop. It's like with putting his hand up, just saying like "stop" is fucking great.
Also, Piano Shit's a good song. They shouldn't shit on it. It's good.
Yeah, I'd say like that just ending of Piano Shit, it wasn't necessary. You called the song Piano Shit. You can just leave it as a short kind of piano to end the album. Have like a little different kind of throwaway on there. But like, yeah, it was like they just shat on the song for a bit too long. It was just like, eh. And that was probably my least favorite moment of that whole album.
Because I liked it a lot, and then they just were like, I'm not here for this shit. It's like, why even fucking put it on the album then?
I don't know. I thought it was fun. I thought the song itself was fun, it's just that moment wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, it was such a weird contrast to have. And then just to kind of name it Piano Shit, ironically, was like, hey, that's kind of funny to put on that. It was short. Like, they didn't just put like a 4-minute fucking piano. Like, a long piano piece at the end of the song or something like that can work. See, My Grandmother's Pearl Hole.
Sure.
But and I thought having the short piano kind of thing at the end of it, which is just such a strong contrast to the rest of the thing, that it was, and just having it there kind of ironically was funny. It wasn't the best thing this album could have done. It could have ended in a completely different way, but I thought that was cool. And if they just kept it there without shitting on it at the end, you'd be fine. And I would say that this didn't have any bad moments on it. It didn't have fantastic blowout moments, but it was a solid garage rock album. Kind of more feels like an EP with how short it is, to be honest. But he calls them albums that are albums.
Also, I just want to point out
It's over 22 minutes, which 22 minutes is the LP length.
26, I think, is LP length, but it doesn't matter. Or 24, whatever.
I want to say Turkey is almost.
Like, the theory was that Father of All Motherfuckers is the length that it is, just so they could call it an album.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm looking through my notes real quick, and I just want to say for Cease and Desist, one of my favorite notes I took is, he is a vindictive fucker, Mike Krol.
I'm sending you a cease and desist in my heart. It's
Yeah, that was actually, I would say Cease and Desist was probably the my favorite of Trust Fund. That was a fun start.
Yeah, it's like, this guy really got hurt.
And then the untitled track at the end of it, I just straight up didn't expect a voicemail that went for a minute to end it. Usually that's how you open it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a, we were talking about this in chat, but that is a nice ass landlord.
Yeah, like, out of the voicemail...
I thought it was his mum.
She talks about getting a check from him.
The deposit.
Or having a check for him. And out of the voicemails I think we've listened to on this show, I think there's like 3 or 4.
Bobby D, which was one. That was on the Dune Rats one, where that the guy that they met after a show called them and that such a drunk voicemail, and which he called them crazy motherfuckers.
There's that one.
And then it starts with the next song where they just go, "Hey, crazy motherfucker."
There's that one. There's the one where Lorenzo put on No Hitter, I think.
Yep, the voicemail.
And then there was
Who did that?
Petite League.
Wait. No, like who was the actual person who did the voicemail?
No idea.
No idea.
There's two voicemails in Petite League because at the end of
mom.
Oh yeah, the mom's the other one.
That's like, hey, you gotta get ready for your party tonight.
And then there was another one we listened to, I remember, that was like really weird and like don't do drugs kind of thing.
Frank Ocean.
Yeah, Blonde, off Blonde. Yeah, that's the other one.
Blonde, where it's like it was the whole, yeah, school's gonna be tough. Don't do marijuana.
Out of all those, I think this is the best one.
It's like humanizing.
Yeah, it's very specific and very humanizing.
I think if you judge the voicemails by themselves, I would agree. But if you did the context and what it led into, I'd go with Dune Rats. Just because they just put it as in there as literal context for their opening song.
I mean, Petite League put the other voicemail, not the mom one, but the other voicemail as context for the song that came after as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still prefer Dune Rats.
New York Girls, I think it was. Well, I forget if it came after or before me.
No, it was
talking about the one on No Hitter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The
Go Down This Road or Down That Road or whatever was the song that came after.
Yeah.
You don't want to go down this road. Next song, Down This Road.
Yeah, and I still give it to the Dune Rats point because they literally just like you wouldn't understand Bobby D whatsoever if it wasn't for that intro. And
Yeah.
Bobby D as a song is just one of the highlights of that album.
Sure, I can appreciate it.
Because of how just no cares fun it is.
Now, we talked a lot about Mike Krol, and you talk about how piano is kind of a surprising, end to an album. But we haven't really talked about how well constructed I think the High Visceral stuff is. Because my complaints about the first half of High Visceral Part 1 aside, it does seem like they are going for something. I don't know what that something is.
This was a concept that they took over 2 years. Like in the demos or the B-sides, sorry, that we do. There's a song called Entropy 2,
Right.
which kind of implies that they originally wanted to add that into like either High Visceral 1 or 2 because Entropy is there. Is it a number 1? Yeah, it's a number 1 just before the end. So. And that was kind of like a filler track between, or like a flow track, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Between Found God and a Tomato in Denmark. Which, if I'm correct, Found God and a Tomato was the first PPC song Trix heard.
Yeah, it popped up on my radar, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. And then I listened to the full album, and Cornflake caught me off guard. Just how it's
Yeah, I know, it's like, that's why I don't understand how Dominic doesn't like that song. That's one of the best opening riffs to an album.
Oh,
it's good. Like it's I don't know. I just prefer the other stuff. Like whatever mood I was in when I listened to Part 2 for my notes, I was like bowled over by it. Like when we got to like Ergophobia, where it's like a really dirty riff and it's really thrashy. I'm like, holy shit, what is this? And then you have Coffee, which is like this very 80s jazz like TV intro song. And again, I'm like, what the hell is this? This is so cool and mellow. I'm so down with this. Like, I did not have that reaction to Cornflake and that stuff. Like, this is cool. This is like psychedelic.
Well, the thing that's also really good about this as well is that every song that's actually on this feels like it belongs in here. I wouldn't say this is a song to cut out. Nothing feels like filler. Everything feels like it's going High Visceral theme. Although Psychedelic Porn Crumpets do have a sound like none of the B-side songs sound like they wouldn't have any place on there. So they could have probably even made a part 3 using those songs.
Yeah.
They didn't. They ended up going on to and now for the whatchamacallit, which, spoiler alert, I put as one of my top 20 albums in 2019. Yet never covered it. Him for a Droid, fucking banger.
Like even on the B-sides, there was stuff I really enjoyed. Like with like Made Machine, I was like trying to figure out for this podcast. Like, okay, there's like a lot of noodling in this song. Are they noodling on like the lead guitar or the rhythm guitar? Like, what's going on here? Because this is really jazzy and cool. And Trix was just like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, guitar is guitar. I've never been a fan of the distinction of like lead guitar and rhythm guitar. I mean, guitar is guitar. Lead players can play rhythm parts. Rhythm players can play lead parts.
And then you have the bass, who does everything else.
I should have thrown out so in the like a version that they did last year, where they covered the Jungle Book, like the movie, and did the song "I Want to Be Like You."
Okay.
And they did it in their style, and it's fucking great.
That's pretty fun.
And I think it makes sense for them to do that, because this is a band that just does what they want to do and have fun with it. Like, if you go on to Wikipedia, check out the band history. It literally mentions this is the opening lines to the band history. The bandmates were friends prior to the creation of the band. It has been suggested that they became acquainted through their mutual drug dealer.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is just well, they're a Perth band, so I believe it.
Riddle, what was the other band we listened to where they all had other jobs from you?
Tiny Little. Did we do Tiny Little Houses? No, we didn't. Shit, there's a lot. I know. Well, most of them.
Oh, I think it was Violent Soho.
Yeah. Well, Violent Soho were the ones that were all friends. Most of their ones that are jobs are all in music production as well. Like the lead singer produces for Tired Lion, which is just his girlfriend. So.
Yeah, I was struck by how the Wikipedia talking about how they all had other jobs, basically.
Yeah. It wasn't that they had other jobs. I think they do, but it was that they didn't treat the band first. They just realized, hey, if they're not having fun with this, they can just take a break and then have fun with it later.
Yeah, like the one guy's like a
They're not the only
rugby
band
player.
to do that. Well, none of them are professional.
Well, it said the one guy was playing for the St. George Illawarra, I don't know, Dragons or something.
I might have been a fan of them.
Peter Coyne, the backup drummer, he used to be lead, but then he hurt his wrist in his season with the Dragons.
Peter Coyne.
Coyne.
C-O-I-N-E. I'd be surprised because born 28th of October 1964. He might have, but he definitely wouldn't have been playing during Violent Soho because
I'm talking about he's in Porn Crumpets.
He's in Porn Crumpets.
Yeah.
Oh, that might be a different one. Oh, let me check. Maybe it is the same.
I mean, I was trying to compare the two because I thought it was interesting that like these bands try to at least mention their other jobs. I thought Violent Soho was the other one that had done that.
No, I'm looking at it. I admit to not knowing their full background history.
But this is what the Wikipedia says.
Right. Yeah, you're actually right. It says that he used to play for Yeah, well, there is a Peter Coyne that played for the Dragons, so it's either true or it's just a meme.
Sure, we don't know. But it's also like how
everyone else seems to be born in the 90s and stuff, and this guy's born in fucking 64. So
fair
like
enough.
This old, I can just imagine this old dude just fucked up on ecstasy, just banging the drums as hard as he can. And listening to this album, if that's him, I'm thinking, well, keep on the X.
I mean, have you seen drummers, man? They're crazy.
Yeah. But he's literally the backup drummer.
Because he hurt his hand, apparently.
Hmm.
But
it says he used to be a lead, but after a wrist injury during his NRL season, I'm just thinking, it's like, well, he retired before Psychedelic Porn Crumpets started, so it could just be a meme. There seems to be a lot of jokes on this Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
So who even knows? Like, usually saying it has been suggested that they became acquainted through their drug dealer is not official to put on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
There's no citation. Oh, actually, there is a citation. 6. Toast of Perth, Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, this DIY magazine. Let's see what it says. That's what's going on. Oh, actually, never mind. We are on. So, scroll down.
The Peter Coyne thing has no
It
backup.
talks about how they're just a bunch of acid-soaked mind benders. Oh no, so it actually says on here, meaning originally through their drug dealer, now the orange analogy makes slightly more sense. So it's just what it says. And the quartet, yeah. So apparently, according to this, they met through a drug dealer. That's fucking great.
Hold on, I'm looking.
Knowing Perth, though, and the music scene, probably like everyone in the music scene's a drug dealer, so that real surprises.
It says the Peter Coyne was introduced on a tour. Curious. I'm going to the source for that to see if it says anything. It's the Triple J Unearthed page.
Yeah, they actually like recently just went back on to the Unearthed page to start uploading stuff, which is weird because they've been around for a while. Usually artists stop doing it around this time, but literally their most recent song, like single, is on Unearthed.
Oh, neat.
Which is interesting. Like, you can actually only have a maximum amount of songs on Unearthed at once.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually only have 3, so you can't have like your whole discography on there and start go on there. And the whole point is that if you're not tied to a label and stuff, they actually did get their first feature album on Triple J, which is nice as well with Shiger. So hopefully it ends up being a lot more bigger for them than these previous efforts have been.
I mean, they have their own label now, so you hope so.
I think they're independent though. It's like an independent label.
Yeah, but it is theirs. Like they have, at least the Wikipedia says it is theirs. I guess I have no idea for sure. Also, I noticed on the Bandcamp, I wanted to double check this.
Their Bandcamp doesn't have past Social Candy.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. It doesn't have the other albums.
the other two. So there's Social Candy was the first single from
And now for the whatchamacallit.
Now for the whatchamacallit.
I guess they must have a problem with Bandcamp. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there were problems, but
they still show they put up some merch and stuff on there, and including the High Visceral double LP, which was recently. So they still do stuff through it. I'm actually kind of.
They might just be like contractually obligated to not upload to Bandcamp.
Yeah. But it's their record label though.
Well, just because it's their record label, like that they're
it's run by hippies.
Like it's their own record label, but Dune Rats have their own record label, but they have publishing deals with
sure.
With like Warner Music.
Yeah.
And Dune Rats' recent stuff hasn't been on Bandcamp, even though all their early stuff was. So it's like,
fair.
yeah. And I haven't bought the new Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, but you know what? Give me 5 seconds, talk between yourself. I'm gonna go find the one CD I had by them, and I'm gonna go see if I can find any extra label stuff on that. Give me a minute.
Trix, I feel like I've not heard much from you today.
Yeah, I've kind of just been drinking and eating a burrito.
Tell us something about what you've listened to with these.
One of the first times I was really getting into Mike Krol, I put on I Hate Jazz after getting drunk one morning, which sounds bad. I worked the night shift.
Fair, yes.
It was really like evening, and it was also after I had listened to Crow by Mount Erie.
Oh, so that's that then.
Yeah, so I was just putting myself on a real roller coaster of emotions right there.
I'm sure it's a good palate cleanser for a Crow Looked at Me.
Oh yeah, it was the emotional roller coaster I needed at that moment.
That's fair. And I mean, tearing up to Sarah Vaughan also, good emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry this has been a lot of listening, but like I said, I don't know if you were here for this part, but I don't think we could have done this any other time. I thought it'd be a fun way to cover the break of here's 8 albums we technically listened to. But
I kind of opened the floodgates with Caretaker.
Yeah, but I don't want to do that too much. Obviously, I do want to.
Later, I'm gonna be doing Dope Smoker at some point.
Mm.
So that's 1 hour-long song.
Which is fair game, I think.
And I have another secret. Let me finish this, and then you can start talking.
Yeah.
I have another secret doom metal album that's 1 hour and 20 minutes long.
Ooh.
After we do Ghost.
I have a doom metal album by an Australian band that is nothing but Simpsons references, and they're called Dr. Colossus.
Mm.
That's hilarious.
I found the CD at the local record store. It's fucking literally a co-worker showed it to me, and then straight after that, I found it at a record store.
That's cool.
Anyway, I have got have got the cover here and the actual CD, and now for the whatchamacallit, which is not available on the Bandcamp. So now we can go see what's happened, and opening up is some artwork, but more importantly, on the back, we got the copyright. 2019 copyright. Sorry. Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, manufactured and distributed by Universal Music Australia, marketed by Caroline Australia, made in Australia. That's what it says on there, and that's with What Reality Records, which I'm pretty sure is the psychedelic one. So they're
that's their label, yeah.
Yeah, label, yeah. So there was most likely a publishing deal with Universal Music, in which they go and say, hey, no, don't do Bandcamp, we don't do Bandcamp, and the money from this album they would be taking a share from. So
sure.
They just go, you can sell this on, and that's why their early stuff they put up the merch for on Bandcamp, because they have the full rights to that.
Right.
But with this stuff, then they have to go and say, hey, sorry, we can't do that. And Social Candy, which was a single before they signed the deal, is on the Bandcamp. But now every single and release since then has been on there. So that would be the answer.
That makes sense. Interesting how these big labels work, even if you're just getting distributed.
See, there is a reason to buy CDs.
There is. Absolutely.
Helping out amateur podcasts with their questions.
Just like Seismic.
That's a different reason, but yeah. We've restarted the album of the week on the US Music Discord. I'm tempted when it's my choice again to bring up Seismic and just make everyone do it.
I'm surprised you didn't listen to it. You didn't do it before.
To the Weekend Run Club in Middle East. In my previous two. So I didn't waste them.
No, you did not.
Say that Seismic has been growing.
Yeah, like the first listen, it's like a 5 out of 10, then it's like a 6 out of 10. And now I'm actually thinking it's like an 8 to a 9.
That's incredible. I guess I gotta keep listening.
You really don't like it because you think the vocals are too disconnected from the instrumentation.
Usually, yes.
But I disagree. I actually also think, whilst Iron and Cesticide is probably still the weakest song, I've come to appreciate his vocals a lot more. And the actual like guitars in there are like a lot cooler now that I'm more properly paying attention to them. Originally, I was really only going with Machine Shopping, but I've come to enjoy a lot of the other tracks as well, like Habits, and I mean the title track, the instrumental, so fucking good.
Yeah.
It's not a bona fide classic, but like it's a really good piece of lost media.
Yeah, I will give it. I think it is important as a piece of lost media. I would still have to get in touch with Seismic, somebody from there, and just talk to him about it.
I'll bring it up in my next album of the week choice, and I'll give a $20 reward to the person who can get the most information about it.
Who what?
Whoever. So, because the album of the week, there were actual people who had to like listen to it and review it. And because Trix has very lovely put the whole album on YouTube.
Right.
It's no longer I had to pass the files to people to listen. They can just go to YouTube and listen.
Right.
So I will actually like I'll put that up, and I'll say, whoever can find the most information about this band gets $20.
Okay. All right.
I'll put me down to that, and I'll do that, and hopefully we can get some more information. But the album of the week choice is random. We haven't got an organized path for it. So who knows when I do it? But I am one of the more active users on there. I'm a mod, so it should be in the next couple of weeks.
Hopefully, I'd love to hear more about what they think of it. I'm down.
I like the Weekend Run Club besides that one person.
Who I interacted with when we did the album countdown, the song countdown.
I didn't even listen to the whole album.
Yeah, no, he only listened to 9 out of 12 songs, but like, I mean, people have got their opinions and stuff like that. It's the more joke of it is just a joke.
I mean, trolling him was fun.
It spawned a meme of the fucking bias. It's not really trolling. It's just having arguments.
I was trolling him.
Yeah, I don't really think he fell for it that much. Not gonna lie.
I don't care. It was funny.
Fair enough. If you had fun, that's all that matters.
Because I was very surprised I ran into him. Because I was just hanging out in that Discord. He was going on, and I was like, oh yes.
Yeah, because I tagged him when I put in the second Weekend Run Club song, and then he just messaged like, "Oh, I thought I muted your vanity channel," which is probably the best comment he's made. I'm not gonna lie, that was a pretty good comment.
That's a good one.
Yes.
Well, anyway, we have gone on these albums for about an hour. Shall we do a quick 5-minute summary of like what our favorites and least favorites from each album were?
Sure.
Before we rank these, let's go with Mike Krol first, because I want to say the least favorites and favorites from each album. I can kind of say one from.
Okay.
track listing up. I should have been doing that more whilst I was saying that. Well, first favorite from I Hate Jazz is Red Minivan. I think that one was just like fantastic. I think that's probably one of the best songs in his whole discography.
Mm-hmm.
And my least favorite, I think I have to give it to Grade School Love.
Mm-hmm.
And then favorite from fucking what's the album called? What's the second one called?
Trust Fund? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Cease and Desist, because that was a great start. And then I actually think Plague, the opener to it, is the worst. It was just kind of there. I'm not even really going to bother going about the bonus tracks because none of them were interesting. And in the next ones, I don't really have a favorite or a least favorite from them. But I will say that Less Than Together from Turkey is probably my favorite of that. And Wasted Memory from Power Chords I actually enjoyed quite a lot as well.
I want to hear from Tricks because you're the one who really knows the stuff the best. What you think is the good stuff?
Yeah, my favorite off of I'll go album by album. My favorite off of I Hate Jazz, easily 17. I just like the vibe of that song and like the "Don't Take Me Back, it won't be the same." Fun shit.
Mm-hmm.
Least favorite, Natural Disaster on I Hate Jazz.
Okay.
For Trust Fund, least favorite is Teeth Grinder, I think. I never really got with the vibe of that song. And favorite is probably Modern Furniture.
Okay.
I don't really have a favorite on Turkey. I do like the intro of Suburban Wasteland. And I don't really have a least favorite on Turkey. Just a solid album.
Mm-hmm.
It's only the least favorite moment for me on Turkey, which is just that little like that piano thingy at the end there. That was unnecessary.
Yeah. And Blue and Pink was probably my favorite of Power.
All right.
And I don't have a least favorite for that one.
I think I'm not go by album as much, but like overall in the Mike Krol is never dead saga, whatever that is.
Mike Krol is never dead.
Yes, I have a love-hate relationship with Grade School Love because that is the song I think of first as I look at these notes. That is the song I have most in my head, and it is not the best song, but it is a catchy song, and I have fallen into its trap, so I kind of like that one. But realistically, I think of the early stuff, as much as I like the conceit behind A Million Times, it's also just a lot to listen to for 4 minutes. Even though the repeating part only comes halfway through, even still, it's like, man, yes, I get what you mean. And then, like, for the rest of it, like, Trust Fund, I don't think had a lot that I was particularly super fond of. Cease and Desist and Locker, now that I'm, like, thinking about them, I can remember more. But it was all right. It was kind of a continuation of I Hate Jazz. And you had kind of weird stuff like Snow Day in the bonus tracks. I think that was more interesting. I like the drum test, as weird as that was, just random.
Snow Day is a mood and a half now that I'm living in a place where
yeah, especially now that it is snowing and we've not literally had snow days, but you know. Moving on to Turkey, I think the best song is Piano Shit. Like, straight up. It is a really cool piano track, and they just, shit on it for no reason. Least favorite's probably La 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 for the most obvious reason, because it's just La La La. But I do want to give a special shout out to Save the Date for being such a weird song concept that I still like it. Like, why did you invite me to your wedding if you don't want me to go, kind of thing. And then Power Chords, I don't know. I liked the end because it ended. It was fine. I think Left 4 Dead was kind of cool. But it was such a letdown for me from Turkey that I didn't really pay as much attention, I will admit.
Alright, well, for the Sarah Vaughan one, and keep in mind as well that these are actually my first time ever hearing any of her songs. Never did. I actually gotta say that my favorite song from her was What Is This Thing Called Love the first time I heard it, I was like, ooh, I like how she sings this. So that one I'm going to put as my favorite. And then I'll put I like to cover of Ever Rainbow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good cover.
I mean, that's something we really didn't mention very much. So these are pretty much all covers. That's kind of like the style back then.
Yeah.
Like a lot of jazz pop vocalists just covered standards. The only original song of hers in this album is Sassy's Blues, and that was just her scatting, or for scatting for the whole song.
I'd say my least favorite is probably I Could Write a Book.
Okay.
Just wasn't into it. I didn't hate it. Didn't hate any of it. Just wasn't really into it.
Tricks?
I couldn't keep track of all of the tracks on it, but I will say my absolute favorite was Black Coffee.
All right. For me, my favorite track is Fly Me to the Moon. I think she killed that cover so much. Like, that end of Fly Me to the Moon is one of the best parts of the whole album. Time After Time, also a really great cover. Like, she popularized the song in the first place in the 40s. Still a great version of that song. Really brought me to tears, of course, a little bit. Her cover of Maria from West Side Story, also very good. Even though she did the gender swap thing, so she's singing about the guy feeling the emotions. The songs I didn't like as much are just kind of like the ones that got repeated, of like I Cried for You. What is this thing called Love, but Lover Man. And trying to think of anything else. Sometimes I'm Happy. Why'd You Come Home, Bill Bailey? Some of those songs just didn't hit me as much. I do like her Weezer cover, Say It Isn't So.
Yeah. Did it. Say it isn't so.
I was gonna make that joke and I completely forgot about it.
Polka Dots and Moonbeams, also cool. Baubles, Bangles, and Beads, I also liked. But yeah.
Moving on into the High Visceral. As much as I like Cornflake, I'm actually going to have to say Cuban Cyst Lenses is my favorite of High Visceral. I love it. It's fucking bangs. And I like of part 1. And my least favorite is probably the title track. But at least actually it at least flows into another great song with Surf's Up. Of High Visceral 2, I actually say Odophobia is my favorite off that, and my least favorite is probably Neck. And I couldn't really give you too much with the B-sides. The B-sides are good, but they're kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
Little Moon's pretty good.
Jace?
Dave, you want to pick?
Favorite off of High Viscerals, probably gonna say Cornflake, or not Cornflake, Surf's Up. And what was the other tune? I'm bad at name. The other song off of High Visceral.
The part 1 or
the first part 1?
Found God on a Tomato or
Gallop to Southport. I don't really have a least favorite. Maybe the last hit song kind of dragged on a little too long.
Dominic, you want it? Oh, you
see. I'll just go for like part 2 B-sides.
I thought you were doing all.
This is just part 1. I'm going through parts. Part 2, I didn't listen to as much as part 1, so it didn't really stick out as much. But I did enjoy most of it. I don't really have any points that stick out as highlights.
All right, and then the third one, B-sides.
I mentioned.
Okay, I don't know if I heard it.
Yeah, no, wasn't really much points to really.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, the High Visceral Part 1 really picks up around Adult Abstraction of Being, so maybe like Marmalade March or something is my least favorite. But then it really goes into like Found God and Tomato is pretty cool. I think Denmark Van Gogh is Gone, or Van Gogh and Gone is interesting. So I'll probably put Adult Abstract of Being the favorite, Marmalade March being the least favorite for that. For part 2, I liked a lot better. I think Coffee is probably the best track. Ergophobia is also very good. Maybe, I don't know, First Light in the Garden at Chipping is probably my least favorite. There was a weird thing where Dependent on Mary, the first time I heard Dependent on Mary, like, I listened closely, I loved it, but I could never figure out after that why I loved it so much, that specific listening. It didn't hit the same ever again. So I don't know how to feel about that one. And then from the B-sides, I really liked Made Machine. Otherwise, they're all kind of there.
Alright, and now here comes the fun part. Ranking all of the albums. I'm not going to do it as 3 different things here. I'm going to do it all here. So here we go.
Here, one thing I will say: we're gonna rank it as Mike Krol's Never Dead. We're not splitting it up.
Oh, I'm splitting it up.
I was just gonna go in terms of. I wasn't even gonna split it up. I was just gonna go because I have it set so that they're all gonna be just clumped together. So I'm gonna go by artist.
So I'm just gonna throw this out there. If we did it as Mike Krol's Never Dead, kind of thing, I'm just gonna say the demos from that becomes my bottom tier here, and that's where I'm starting from. And each album that I say is better than the one I said before. So starting off, the demos from Mike Krol, never gonna listen to them again. They're really, really uninteresting. Next up is Mike Krol's Trust Fund. I just wasn't really into it. I think out of all the proper albums, least favorite. Then it's I Hate Jazz by Mike Krol. And then it's Power Chords by Mike Krol. And then I'm debating that these 3 are kind of around the same, but when I'm being completely honest, next one is going to be the B-sides to High Visceral.
Mm-hmm.
Next one is going to be Sarah Vaughan. And then the next one is going to be Mike Krol's Turkey, because I think that one's an outlier in his discography.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty damn good. So that's where we are. Demos, Trust Fund, I Hate Jazz, Power Chords, High Visceral B-sides, Sarah Vaughan, Turkey, High Visceral Part 2, High Visceral Part 1.
Okay. I'll go in reverse order then of you, so I'll start with the best and go to the least, because that's the only way I could think of this right now. There's a lot of albums here.
Fair enough.
Sassy Swings the Tivoli, favorite album. I really like High Visceral's Part 2, but being able to tear up after listening to Sassy Swings the Tivoli, however many times I've done it, I gotta give it to that. After that's Part 2. After that's Turkey. After that, probably High Visceral's Part 1. Then the B-sides. And then Mike Krol's Never Dead and Power Chords are just somewhere at the bottom.
This is going to be terrible to find the average on.
all people taking notes at home, this is the episode to pay attention to.
The math is real here. Trix, are you ready?
Trix?
Trix is dead.
Trix
is dead. Trix! 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 Trix!
What is she saying? Yeah, she was cut out.
Yeah, you have cut out, Trix. That is an unfortunate technical difficulty that we've got on here.
Perfect timing.
Anyway.
She's back.
Yeah, where did I cut off?
You just cut off, so you didn't say a single word of your rankings.
Okay, so a bit of a surprise for my number 3. I think I'm gonna go with Mike Krol's entire discography.
Okay.
Like, I like Mike Krol, but Sassy Swings and High Viscerals are much better. Number 2 is gonna be Sassy Swings, and number 1 is the High Visceral.
Now, which High Visceral do you place higher, Part 1 or Part 2?
Part 1.
Part 1. Therefore, High Visceral Part 1 is the winner because it got 2 number 1s. Thank you.
Fair enough. I think if I were just doing the artists again, it's pretty obvious mine would be Sarah Vaughan, Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, and Mike Krol at the end.
Yeah, it would be the same for me as well. Because
well, you probably put Psychedelic first.
Yeah, Psychedelic first. I meant, like, with Mike Krol coming last, but, like,
yeah,
that's only because there's the one good Mike Krol album and everything else is just at best, realistically. Although I will go back to Turkey, and maybe next time Bandcamp Friday happens, I might even buy it.
So that brings us to what we're doing next week.
Now, I've said that I have the choice of 2 albums, and I wanted to base it off what you 2 are choosing. So please pick your albums first.
Trix, why don't you go first?
Alright, yeah, I've already dropped it into the Discord, what I'm going to be doing, but I think I have a clear number one here. I'm going to be doing Hippocampus's Landmark.
Oh, we're finally getting to that.
Yes.
Into Hippocampus. Look, I do have a Hippocampus album in my collection. It's Bambi. I listened to it.
That one's not as good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, not gonna lie, it's kind of just there. So I'm interested to see.
That's my opinion as a huge fan of Landmark.
Okay.
But yeah, heard great things about this album. Finally, excited to get into it.
All right. So then, for me, I want to talk about how did I get into Sarah Vaughan, right? It's an interesting pick, I think, for me, just kind of wanting to cover jazz, but like, why her specifically? Well, I found her through another artist, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have an album be like the main pick, but the single that I found Sarah Vaughan stuff through, I also kind of just want to throw on as well. It's like a 3-track single thing. I'll share the link in the Discord here. But so I'm picking breakbeat DJ Adam Freeland is my artist, and there was a single version he remixed Fever by Sarah Vaughan, and it was nominated for a Grammy. I think it's really great. And then after that,
here's just an interesting thing about Adam Freeland I just want to say as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the only song I can access on Spotify.
Really?
There's two things. There's How to Fake Your Own Life and the Hate EP, and then there's Fever.
And that he also releases his albums under the name Freeland, which is annoying. So we have Adam Freeland and the Fever stuff, and then there's Cope, the album by Freeland. So I'll drop that and see if you can access it.
Yeah, no, I can find that. That is interesting, and that also because I thought you were going to go with the Distillers because you were talking about it a bit earlier.
Right.
And the reason why you are is because Brody Dale is on this album.
Right. And so this album, and like finding I found Adam Freeland through the game Res because one of his tracks.
Well, oh no.
Yeah, so one of Adam Freeland's tracks was remixed for the game Res, and through Res I found Adam Freeland, and then through Adam Freeland I found Sarah Vaughan and I found Brody Dale. So that's why I started with Sarah. We're going to go to Adam, and then we're going to go to Brody with Distillers. That is my little plan here.
All right. Well,
sounds good.
So I do plan this year to cover a lot more albums from the 2020 circuit, or 2021 circuit, sorry, which is December 2020 to the end of November 2021. And there is an album that I was gonna choose. I decided not to choose it, but I will choose it later. That has come out. It's the new Avalanche's record. I think it's fantastic, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do that later because I want to go down to an album that came out in last year's circuit, December of 2019, which I found after someone posted it in a self-promotion channel. So the actual singer put it in there and said, "Hey, this is my stuff." Gave it a listen, and it's ambitious and great. And we're doing Mao Satui's Out of the Hospital and Into the Morgue. It's kind of what I'd like to call a mix of the Microphones, Neutral Milk Hotel, bit of pretentiousness, but also good songwriting.
Can you spell the artist name, please?
It's Mouse, and then Atui, like Ratatouille. Take rat.
Okay.
Ratatouille.
Oh, okay.
Change the R to Mouse.
Okay, I get the joke now. I did not even think about that. I'm so disappointed.
And both of these albums that I was going to choose were going to be long albums anyway. So I apologize for that. I think this is actually the shorter of them because I think Avalanche is 72 minutes and this is 69.
I mean, the first Avalanche album was an hour as it was.
I'm actually going to go check to see how much.
I'll tell you how long.
The new Avalanche is 71 minutes. Very close. Anyway, while Trix finds out how long stuff is, I have been Ritalin. You can catch me at my website, ritalinforkids.github.io. There's no way to email me on that, but take a look at my projects. I've gone back into some game development, so hopefully I have some stuff to show off later. I also have a YouTube channel in the description below. I also have a band camp because we made EPs last year. So
We did make EPs last year.
Yeah, 2020
here's my
was
sound
truly
card,
the
my
darkest
LinkedIn.
timeline.
Anyway, one of you two, like you shit.
I have been Tricks. You can catch me online at procrastronaut_ on Twitter. That's like procrastinating astronaut, and an underscore at the end of it. And I also have a YouTube channel where I've been doing a lot of bass content. If you're into bass guitars like I am, and on to Dominic.
I am. Oh, by the way, Landmark by Hippocampus is 44 minutes, so there's that. But I have been Dominic. You can catch me on Twitter at DACICHOCKI. I am not really currently writing anything. My Tilted Windmill Studios site is still up. I'm not really writing for it right now. Taking a break. Maybe I'll go back to it. Maybe I won't. We'll see. But if you would like to read my opinions on video games and things, TiltingWindmillStudios.com is still alive, and for now is my most recent writing. I think otherwise that'll do it for us.
Catch us all at dissonantwaves.space.
Yes, that's right.
On Twitter at dissonantwaves.
Yes, dissonantwaves.space.
We'll catch you all next week, and it will be a great episode. I promise to you.
Oh shit, we gotta get good now. Fuck.
Money back guarantee.
Gotta edit it now. Bye.